right, this is the start of the presentation. I'm going to start this timer here. So I have my notes on the screen. As you can see, the slides are up here. And this is me. I'm presenting, blah, blah, blah. My name is Nicholas Richards. And I'm going to thank everybody. Well, I thank you for watching, I guess. I'm going to thank everybody for watching and joining. This is the conclusion of the Divide 200 video series. But for the sake of this practice, it's going to be my reflection on the journey to the finish line of the Divide 200 and how I was able to travel 320 kilometers with 12,000 meters of elevation through the Continental Divide. And obviously my name is Nicholas Richards, and here's a picture of my wonderful crew chief and girlfriend and I at the finish line. And it almost makes me tear up just thinking about that picture. So I want to state as an introduction that the journey to the finish line obviously would start well before I showed up to the start line at Castle Mountain Resort. This sucks. I don't know what to look at here. I got my notes on the screen here, but okay, hold on. To illustrate this point, I have 4 major sections that ultimately led to me being one of 100 runners to take part in the Divide 200. First, I'm going to cover my why. Second will be my Capes 100 experience last year. It was a valuable first introduction to ultra. Well, I've run multiple ultras, but that's my first major ultra 100 mile. And third, I'm going to be leading up to the Divide 200, which was basically this year. And finally, I'll wrap it up with a reflection of the Divide 200 event itself and the adventure that I was on. So my why, first of all, the pictures are of my friend Franco and my father, who is behind me, holding my daughter Audrey in 2013. And I'll get more into that here as we go along. But first of all, my why, living up to my potential. It started in 2019. I started running in about August. And January of that year, my father passed away from cardiovascular complications. And basically, I ended up seeing my fate in his death. And that he was just smoking himself, smoking his regrets away, really keeping to himself, letting the darkness rule his life. And I realized how short I was still selling myself. And I'll get more into that as well. But basically, it's really exploring my potential, not wanting to leave anything on the table when my time is called, I guess. So to really step into my power, essentially. Second point would be that I really wanted to, I guess that ties into what I was just talking about, isn't it? With no regrets, heart full of love. I want my life to mean something, for me to be someone of value for the people that are close to me. Really dive into my spirit and reveal what I'm capable of before I ended up, like my father, smoking myself to an early grave, really not giving a shit about what people thought or the mistakes I've made, not seeking connections. When it's my time to go, I feel like I would honor his burden most that he carried throughout his life, the darkness that took him. I would honor his burden by facing that same darkness and climbing those mountains that he was unable or unwilling to climb. And I want my time to call me with my heart full of love, potential well realized, and to be of someone of value to those that I was present with. I should learn to read my notes rather than speak. But this is why we do this, right? And running ended up being the only real way over about 2 or 3 decades that I was able to really analyze introspective It's the only way I was really able to turn inward and face myself, my ego, and not to face myself like you would in a mirror, but how you would in a deep meditation, and analyze my life and circumstances. Whew. It really allowed me to begin to understand why my thoughts were the way they were, how I reacted the way I do, and how my emotions would boil up in certain ways. And just when I thought I was broken for so many years, just resigned to my fate, and really using substances to just kind of numb it all down, maybe hide from the world and just be in my dark little corner. Really not seeking connections at all, but realizing those broken places were ways that the light can shine from, or let the light in and out. It's probably a better way to say that, but and honoring legacies past, present, and future, creating a path of belief for my daughter to follow. Really, just lighting a torch for her to lighting a torch that I can pass off to her, or at the very least show her how to light her own. My father's legacy, my ancestors, and the generational trauma that obviously followed my family through generations. And I say obviously because I'm not the only one of my family to suffer from substance abuse or from the mental illness of just really insecure thoughts, depression, so on and so forth. And I just wanted to become the one to break these curses, the one willing to climb these mountains and really get to the bottom of it, do the uncomfortable work, speaking it to the world, sharing it, and just essentially doing it for them, and them being obviously Franco and my father, but doing it for people in the same darkness, hiding in the similar corners of the world, and strangers that I don't even know, and I may not ever know, but I would like to be a light in the world rather than just kind of feeding on darkness. And before my first ultra in April of last year, 2022, that's when my friend passed away. It was must have been 48 hours before my first ultra event, and that's what really kind of introduced the emotional aspect of running to me, running for a higher purpose. And that's a great segue into Capes 100. Here's my finished picture. I finished 5 minutes, probably 4 minutes and change before cutoff. So it was a gritty effort. I can taste the pain of this picture. This leg here, it was just lightning bolts, but I digress. And yes, this is Capes 100 was my first year, completed as my first year as a trail runner. So before this, I ran a couple ultras on self-supported with friends and whatnot, but yeah, I started trail running probably March of 2022, and here in August, I finished 160 kilometers of, at the time, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Obviously, 200 miles is double that, but we'll definitely get into that. So my progression was fairly quick, and a lot of people will know me as the Halifax Hair Sweeper from last year. I adopted a sweeper mentality. It's a concept of being comfortable being last. When I first started trail running, there was this uncomfortable feeling that I was making people wait for me, or that I was going to be left behind, that I'd get lost. I was just being a burden on these people. And I would see these trail runners, they would just float over rocks, and I was like, wow, I want to be like that one day. And at the presentation tomorrow, I'll be sharing the stage with two of those people that I looked up to. And yeah, you would probably know me as a smoker as well. I was smoking weed at the back of the line quite often. Um, and honestly, that kind of fed into the darkness. Honestly, it's uh, fuck. Yeah, it's just humbling to think about that I was in that state of mind. But I was at the same time, I was friendly. I was sociable with people that were not so comfortable with trail running. And that kind of blows my mind because I did feel comfortable with it quite quickly. And there was people that thought I was trail running for years, but really it was only my first year, and uh, I progressed very fast. I suppose. Um, Obviously, as I completed a 100 mile, and earned my first belt buckle in my first year as a trail runner. As I mentioned, I was wrestling with addiction even while I was running these events. Even during Capes, I probably smoked 9 or 10 joints. I showed up prepared. But before that event, about 2 weeks before, I was actually sober, but the nerves got to me, and I ended up relapsing, for lack of better words, and just to numb those uncomfortable feelings and emotions. But yeah, that always kind of gnawed at me. Once I completed this event, I went down a really dark hole, and I started smoking just nonstop. Like I even got into cigarettes again, which goes hand in hand with the cannabis. But I would just hide out in my garage and just smoke one after the other. There really was no end to it. And part of that was I was really negatively motivated. It's been about 8 years since the Navy kicked me out for seeking mental health help for this addiction. Um, Long story there, but needless to say, I was very spiteful, I was very angry, and I knew my life had to change at that point, so um, foreclosed my house, declared bankruptcy, and 8 years was about the time I gave myself to get back on my feet. Bankruptcy would be cleared off my record. I just wanted to prove people wrong. I wanted to prove the Navy that they fucked up by letting me go. And if you followed my post last year, a lot of it was hashtag fuck the Navy and like fuck you guys. I'll prove to you that you guys fucked up. Yeah, generally it was very negatively motivated. I was not in a positive state of mind. And actually, at the finish of this event, I was surrounded by Halifax hares, and that was really the light in the dark, the first light in the dark that I remember. It was just being surrounded by love, and like it was 36 hours after the start of the event, and these people waited around just to, I don't know if it was just to see me cross, but I know they were highly interested in seeing how I would do, because they knew I was out there battling, and that's definitely an understatement. And during this event, this is part of the struggle for me. This is when the battle started to really mean something. The ghost pacer, the infamous ghost pacer. So at kilometer 85, I had somebody volunteer to be my pacer. So I would get to, I believe it was 109 kilometer point, and I would pick up this person to finish the remaining 51 kilometers with me. So I got to that point at a very low moment in my race, hopeful that somebody would be there, a fresh set of eyes, fresh mind to keep me going, to cheer me up, to tell jokes, to really distract me from what I was going through. And so I just crested this little hill, and I turned around up this gravel road, and there was nobody. There was empty cars. There was this dreadful sounding windmill, just very, very lonely. It was the loneliest I've ever felt. It was probably the lowest I've ever felt. And I remember just sitting there for a second, and I couldn't believe somebody would just like leave me there. Like maybe they were late. Should I wait? But it didn't take me long to just really be comfortable being alone with myself. It kind of ties into being negatively motivated, where I was like, okay, fuck this then. That she doesn't think I could do it. These people don't think I could do it. I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them. So I just started walking. I didn't. There was bear poop all along this trail. So I was singing. I was doing everything I could to really. Doing everything I could to stay sane, stay safe, and really distract myself from what was happening. And it all really just introduced a different side of me to myself and really illustrated the disparity between who I was at that point and versus who I wanted to be in the future. And like I wasn't getting any younger. I'm 37 in this picture, and like I'm not getting any younger. My daughter looked up to me as a figure to model her life after. And it was a harsh lesson. I mean, it was dark. I had to dig deeper than I've ever even imagined that it was possible. I had to dig deeper. Okay, I had to dig deep into my soul, deeper than I ever thought I would be able to, and I had to rationalize with myself that I was living half-assed. I was smoking my life away and just wasting time, wasting money, wasting my potential, wasting my energy, wasting my light. Like, what if the world needs me? What if I'm going to be somebody to change somebody else's life? Or what if I'm able to help somebody or just make somebody smile, make a little bit of a positive difference in the world? But like I said, that was the first little taste of it. And after this event, I again dove into darkness again. I had a bad imposter syndrome where I was like, people would congratulate me, and it wasn't even like they were talking about me, because I knew I could do it faster, better. I knew I smoked during this event. Like, it was shameful. There was a lot of shame in that. A lot of shame that I started smoking just weeks before this. And it's just hitting the highway again. As soon as I start, then it's fucking go mode. Smoking an ounce a week, fucking pack of cigarettes a day. And I would still run when I was smoking, but like, something in my mind turned dark. And I realized the time. We're at 18 minutes, so I could probably ramble on a little bit more about that, but we'll see. We'll see where we are with this one. Wow, leading up to the Divide 200. So 2023, like I said, was about... whoops. It was about my word of the year. To start the year, I fell madly in love with my current with my current girlfriend. Oh my god. I fell madly in love with the love of my life. It was... I can't even put it into words. I don't even know how to describe it, but 8 years ago, 2023 was my year. It was my year that I had in my mind that bankruptcy was cleared. Man, there's just so much to talk about here. Okay, stick to my notes. I made it a mission in 2023 to embrace change, and 8 years after the Navy kicked me out for seeking mental health help with cannabis abuse, my bankruptcy was cleared off my credit report, and my goal of making as much money as I did in the forces came true. It manifested as the acronym THC, Transcending Harmful Choices. So that manifested as my YouTube channel, quitting THC, which was my first real expression on videos. And from there, it just became something more or less verbalizing what I was going through to the world, to the universe, and not really caring who seen it or who would ever see it. but just knowing that it helped me getting it out there, and obviously something that I continue here. So I moved into a new apartment. I fell in love with the woman I only could dream about for my whole life. And honestly, it was a year to the day that I'm going to present this that I first seen her. Or, well, no, I seen her before that just once, but it was the first real connection that we had. We ran by each other, and her eyes just captured me from that moment. And it's just been like history ever since. So it's been our 1 year senior anniversary. Tomorrow, I guess it would be. And oddly enough, this presentation is going to take place at the site of our first date at a Night of Adventure event. So it's all, the synchronicities are they're all there. Like, it's always been there. So in short, it was about building an unshakable foundation so I could build into the vision of who I saw during Capes. And it finally seemed like the universe was helping me. It was on my side. To transcend means for me to step into the person I was born to be, and to really align that vision during Capes of what I saw versus where I was, and really bring that into being. And it's not been easy. A lot of it has been digging deep into the shadows. I've seen a shaman who specializes in IFS, internal family systems therapy, and a lot of that is healing the inner child, getting in touch with the parts that are not broken but might be wired in a certain way that don't serve you and currently, and really getting in touch with the nervous system. So the responses of this inner child to an alarm will trigger your fight or flight, and that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from. Separation anxiety, depression, just fucking everything that I smoked away. I wanted it to go away, and smoking cannabis was the only way that I could just numb it just a little bit. I could just numb it, forget about it, suppress it, and move on. Yeah, so golly, this is when I started to manifest the dragon spirit within. I had bad strep throat in December. I went to the doctor in the emergency room, and all they would give me is a little pail of cream and told me to put it on. But it was actually strep throat. So in December I had strep throat, and it wasn't until about April or May that I went to a dermatologist, and they took a chunk out of my arm to test it and sent me for blood work, and that's when they found out it was actually strep throat in my blood. And so a week of antibiotics and this bad rash that I had all over, it finally cleared up, and I felt 100% again. So most of this year was spent sick, which is crazy. So yeah, I really started to dive into why I was the way that I am, and all the subconscious programming that I developed over the decades. Honestly, it started when I was a kid. There was a lot of emotional trauma, a lot of unhealed wounds, I guess, and I really just wanted to dive in. This sucks to talk about. Yeah, I just wanted to dive into the stuff that wasn't serving me anymore and grow as a person, grow as a lover, grow as a father, grow as a brother, friend, runner. And that's what I mean. Running is only the tip of the iceberg for me, but it's the most visible, I guess. So this is all the shadow work that really I've been embracing. And this leads into my next point of staying soft. I realized that part of the whole healing process is you got to feel it to heal it. The uncomfortable places are where you're supposed to be. It's is supposed to feel uncomfortable. Success is not a comfortable procedure. And so I shared my story to YouTube. I opened up to therapists. I was willing to do the work, read the books, listen to the words, listen to the advice, and be truthful, be very vulnerable in my Instagram posts. Analyzing my social media use was another big one. I found my ego was using that as a way to fulfill emotional needs that weren't being met by my previous relationship that failed for many years, but I only made that choice to change last year as well. Just really wasn't serving me or anybody at all. Man, that's a lot. And all the feelings and emotions that I got hard to escape from, I more or less welcomed back into my life. And I reconnected with my daughter in meaningful ways, and as training ramped up, I realized that it wasn't supposed to be easy. But beyond physicality, the balancing of working full-time, seeing and spending time with my daughter, planning out the weekly runs, and balancing and rebalancing priorities, it all really became a very, very much a journey of growth and becoming, and allowing my light to shine to the world. And this picture is actually the first picture of my daughter and I at our new apartment. And it speaks volumes to me. There's no filter on it, but she's wearing my light vest, and we're down at the local trail where she was riding her bike. And I'd never quite seen her so independent or like willing to explore like that. And this moment, I'm glad I captured this moment as it is, because she's standing on the rock looking out. And she was like, "Wow, it's so pretty." So just a really humble moment I got to share with her. And of course, training, discipline, and balance. I obtained a training plan from Jody Eisner, and I wanted to involve him as I look up to him personally and for his running experience. I found his attitude was very humble and grounded and objective. And he at the Capes 100, he's obviously the race director, but he was one of the loudest. Him and his wife Corinne were the loudest of my cheers that I heard. And the training plan peaked at, it wasn't too scary, but there was a lot of hills. It peaked at 160 kilometers with 7,000 meters of elevation in a single week. And it was during this time, during the 22 weeks of training, I believe it was, that I really started to appreciate the process. It was more about the process of becoming somebody that I wanted to be, rather than actually accomplishing the goal of finishing the Divide 200. And it was during Capes that I learned the value of shared experience. Just this year, I was able to pace my buddy Luke. That sounds weird. I was able to be a pacer for my friend for his first 100-mile buckle. Where am I going with that? As I mentioned, this has all become about sharing the experience. The end of Capes 100 introduced me to the love that could be involved in these events. Obviously, I was already aware of the emotional side, but the connections and the shared experience of it all. I've seen people in tears just because I ran this 100-mile event. And that was really humbling to me. That was really a wake-up call. And being able to volunteer and be a pacer for my good friend's 100-mile buckle, and to share in that experience with him was really valuable for me as a person. And I consider everyone involved as part of my team. And it, whether you're sending me messages or directly involved, or what the fuck am I even saying here? Whether directly by my stories, an immortal spirit in a mortal body experiencing the immortal universe and sharing it with as many people as possible. whether directly by my stories or by doing this and speaking it out into the world. I consider everyone involved as part of my team, and it helps feed the fire in those cold, dark nights in the mountains. So 2023 was only my second year as a trail runner, and my fourth year as a runner overall. I've done multiple ultras and marathons in that time, and this chart really illustrates the progression that I've made over those years. It speaks for itself all time. I've done 38% of my runs this year, 47% of my distance this year alone, and this is over 4 years here, these totals, and 56% of my elevation came from this year alone. And I believe this includes divide, so this speaks to how much I just went at it this year. Fucking rambling here. I need my cue cards, I think. So after Capes, I was definitely hobbled and injured, mentally and physically. But after Divide, I was relatively intact. I barely had any blisters. No chafing at all. My stomach cooperated 98% of the time. My feet were great. My mind was intact, probably 90% of it. I was able to smile at the aid stations, joke around. So it was really impressive. I impressed myself with how well I was able to handle that distance, and it was really surprising, honestly. And during training, I rested when I needed to. I was sick. I was pretty sick once, and I was injured once, but I was able to kind of complete my elevation at least, but dial back on the distance. And never shied away from the responsibilities of my life. So in saying that, never underestimate yourself. If you can speak it, you can achieve it. If you dream, plan, execute, and then repeat. But you know when to push and know when to pull. So that means know when to push forward and know when to pull back, and be disciplined with both ways. I found that mantra to really serve me well in my training. 32 minutes. Maybe I can't ramble on that fast. So the Divide 200. Pictured here is my team. We started the run with, this is myself obviously, but with Luke Doucette and Nick Porter. This is my first pacer miles. I picked him up around, how far in was I? I don't fucking remember. 140 kilometers. And these are my other two pacers, Matthew and Tomas. And this is my lovely girlfriend and crew chief and her best friend Nicole, who they were invaluable in turning me around at these checkpoints, making sure I was all set to go. And my crew chief absolutely killed it. I don't know, I wouldn't be able to do it without her or any of these team members really. So I'm grateful to call them my team, and it was really a team effort. I don't know, like I said, they were all integral to my effort. And my paces were all strangers before this event, but now I consider them good friends just based on the shared experience alone. And starting with friends from the Maritimes helped ease into the first day of the adventure. So it was a good way to start. And my objective was to just keep it simple. All through training and even the event, I wanted to just not overthink gear. I used the same pack and clothes that I've used for years. The only thing I bought new was my shoes, and I had a pair of Lucky gloves that I would wear in the cold mountain nights. I made sure not to carry too much in my pack. Really not overdo it at all. I didn't overthink nutrition at all. I kept everything basically the same. I didn't worry about the small blisters or the niggles that were arising. I just focused on being present, taking it one step at a time, and moving forward. Oh, we're going to be over time. Oh my god, I rambled too much. So driving into the mountains, there were big emotions for a big adventure. I was overwhelmed with the time, energy, and effort it took to make it to the mountains in the first place. I was anxious for the start at hand, for the task at hand, but I needed to remain present and take it one step at a time. Even before the start line, I wanted to be water, flow, crash, or be still, but not all three. And so now I will share. I have 5 minutes to share in the adventure, but this is why we do it. I can't ramble so much for the beginning part, so I'll share some pictures. Oh, like I'm not even going to be able to share any of this. So the scenery was absolutely mind blowing. It made the climbs all worth it. Made the hurts not hurt so much. And seeing the mountains like this was absolutely breathtaking. In the Maritimes, we don't get exposed to too many breathtaking mountain scenes like that. And the first day we traveled about 70 kilometers, and we ended up with about 30,500 meters of vertical gain in the alpine terrain. I wish I could even describe it, but scree descents and rocky climbs, and switchbacks that were particularly treacherous, with rocks tumbling down from the people ahead. So staying present and looking for the glimmers, looking for the positives in the experience and the adventure, and like views like this, you can't even put into words. To be able to see this like 360, it was all just this type of scenery. And during the first night crossing Table Mountain, it got really windy, and it was so disorienting to see headlamps up above and below and not know where you were really going, but you just see moving lights. And at a particular moment, there was these links of stars that looked like coming overhead, and lo and behold, it was the Starlink satellite system going above. But that was particularly creepy. And another view of I don't have any notes on this one, so I'm just going to show it, I guess. It was really easy to see the glimmers. I think this was the second day, but views like this, you just had to stop and appreciate. And after a good nap to start day 2, I woke up at sunrise, and I found myself solo, so I took my MP3 player. And I never really run with music, but it was a special treat to just kind of tune out the world and never run with music. So it was a special treat, just to kind of listen to my own interviews and songs, and really just enjoy the moment, and stop for a lot of pictures, and look forward to picking up my first pacer at CP6 later that day. When I was solo, I received a message from my coach, Jody, just to keep it simple, just keep eating, keep drinking, and keep moving. And that fired me up pretty good. I ended up powering up these climbs by myself. I must have passed 8 or 10 runners just up these climbs, and went over this ridge. Thinking of how special the experience was, and just how special it was to know that people at home were watching me, keeping track of my GPS, and really just cheering for me. And really, I remember most just looking forward to seeing my girlfriend and crew chief at these major checkpoints, knowing that she'd be there with a beautiful smile, just waiting for me. And that's what really powered me through. And scenes like this is this is right after CP6. So this is Crow's Nest Mountain with the Seven Sisters, and this is a sunset. So there's moments like this that really took my breath away and allowed me to really appreciate the moment. and this is sunrise on the other side. So this is Crow's Nest Mountain and Seven Sisters from the other side. So we started on the far side of this, and throughout the night we basically circumvented the whole range. And I remember just being so cold, and my water bladder, and we're over 40 minutes, so I gotta stick to my notes. But I remember it being super cold. My water bladder ended up stealing a lot of heat from my body, and Miles became amazed at how fast I would fall asleep on the side of the trail. So every now and then I'd find these walks to be really phasing in and out, and I would just have to sit down and close my eyes for a couple minutes. And I remember distinctly waking myself up with a snore, and I was like, okay, it's time to go again. And some of that terrain over the night was very treacherous. I've honestly never been so scared running, but some of that was very steep on either side, and there was only this one small thin little trail winding your way through, and tell you, it'll wake you up pretty fast if you trip on a root, and you're like, whoa. So anyways, not even halfway through the damn race and I'm over time. So when I picked up my next pacer, Tomas, we ended up running through the trail at night again, and we ran into this group of runners that were just really negative. They were just trudging along. I started to go into zombie mode. But even before that, we sat back on this creek river bank, and we just appreciated the stars at night, and it was a glorious experience just knowing that we were there in that moment in time, experiencing the same thing, and really just taking a moment to appreciate all that was around us. So when we caught up to this group of runners that were very negative, I basically made the decision to wake up and choose positivity to push through, and I just powered up these hills again. There was multiple climbs, sustained climbs that I was just sick of it. I just made the decision to get up and over. I might have too many pictures in here for this presentation. This is a scene with me and my pacer Tomas. We could hear an animal bellowing during this time, and we thought it was an elk. But as we turned a couple more corners, it was actually a cow. It was the angriest cow that I've ever seen, and she was bellowing so loud. There was a whole group of cows here that we were kind of sketchy to pass by, but luckily they allowed us through. So picking up my final pacer, we zombie trudged. I was basically a zombie. We started out overnight into North Kootenai Pass. I was basically sleepwalking, taking several naps along the trail, and we ended up, this is sunrise at North Kootenai Pass, so this is BC, I believe. BC's over here somewhere. So this is a particularly emotional moment. There's a photographer not in view, but we ended up having a small interview with him, and he caught me tearing up quite a bit at this moment because I was born in BC, and he asked me what I was feeling at that particular moment, and I remember distinctly saying, I'm grateful to be alive. So this would be the last stretch before the finish. I believe we went up and over here somewhere, but as you can see, the sun was up high. It was a beautiful day, and it was so hot. So again, after North Kootenai Pass, I crashed pretty good. I was just dreading the distance that we had to go, about 40 kilometers left, and I just crashed mentally. I remember sitting there messaging my girlfriend, and I was just at my wit's end, but I remember making the decision to be like, is so long. So it was very hot. We were super exposed. My toes hurt. But I made the decision to stop feeling sorry for myself and to push through. And we ended up running several kilometers at a 5-minute and 30-second pace. We basically left the group of runners that we were with, and we joined a group further ahead. And I still get comments today, people following along GPS, how they couldn't find us anymore, but we were way above where they expected us to be, because we ended up just sprinting past these groups of runners. And I remember the looks on their faces were priceless. And this is the finish. Oh, man, 45 minutes. Okay. This is a picture of the finish, my beautiful girlfriend and I with the buckle. And to finish this, again, I was crashing hard. We crested this mountain, and we were on this treacherous descent where my leg hurt. It felt like lightning every time I stepped. And words from my beautiful girlfriend and my pacer. I heard voices behind me at this point, so I was sitting on the side of the trail, feeling bad for myself. These rocks hurt like hell, and I was just down. And I just snapped awake. I was like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Let's get it done. I just want to be done with it at this point, and this is what it's supposed to feel like. I don't really have time to show this video. Is it even there? Fuck it, let's show it. So this is a video of the finish. Can't even hear it.
Number 1, Nicholas Richards.
Love it. 86 hours. That's ridiculous. Oh, I remember that moment like it was yesterday. So that was a very super special moment of the finish. What? Oh, no, we just saw that. Let's show that again. Why isn't it changing here? Alright, there we go. So in conclusion, there can be no finish line in the ultimate ultramarathon of life. We all run it together, and there is no competition. It's very much a journey of me versus me, or you versus you, and all we can do is keep moving forward, and I hope that you will too. And 5 ultra lessons to apply to life. Remember your why. Discipline, know when to rest and when to push forwards or push and pull. Love over fear, love or faith over fear. Look for the glimmers every day, every step. There's always something positive. Stay soft. Experience the ultimate human. The ultimate human experience is to feel these emotions, feel the uncomfortable feelings, and realize that there is no finish line. It's always going to be you versus you, and there is no other you in this whole world. Hey, on we go. We're almost 50 minutes, so in those troubled times when you believe you can't keep going or it's too much, the obstacles on your path seem too daunting, and you can't see the way, or the way forward seems too difficult, whether that be in life, love, or running, I would like to offer this quote. It's an original quote by yours truly. If you cannot see the way, be the way. If you cannot find the way, let your light shine so that the way reveals itself. And you will come to realize that you are the way. And for more adventures, follow along. And hopefully my actual presentation is about 10 minutes quicker than this. So this is my lovely girlfriend and I before the race even starts. And I love looking at her face and her smile. Oh my God. So Instagram, ultracouple.ns, YouTube, obviously you know that. And my website there, waywardway.ca. Thank you. We're done now. Yay. Hopefully I'll be a lot quicker on my actual presentation. But anyways, that's it. Where am I going? I hope that was enjoyable, if not entertaining. That was my first real run through it, so it was really good to see how long it takes. It's almost 5 o'clock now, so I'm going to wrap this up and get the fuck out of here. This video is probably going to end up being an hour long by the time I join everything together. But it is what it is. All right. Peace, love, and clarity. I'm out of here.